Okay, so what I had just done in owner accounting, I'm going to zip back there for a moment. I went to revenue occupancy, clicked on revenue import, and I imported the revenue for the month of January and brought it in. And now I'm doing my double check in room key to make sure that the amounts are matching. So 2036805. So I jump over to room key. I'm going to go to reports, audits, OA reconciliation. I'm going to choose January 1st to January 31st. Click OK. And here I can see the amount 2036805 matches. Okay, if it ever doesn't match, what you can then do is look at each unit here and it'll give you the revenue amounts. And if you jump back over to OA, you'll see the revenue amounts. And if it doesn't match and you can't figure out why, give us a call in support and we can help you figure out what's going on. 99.99% of the time, the revenue is matching. So you shouldn't see a difference between those two. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to go through each unit and make sure everything looks okay. Beside room 101, I'm going to click on view. And here we have the status closed. So essentially, this room was out of order for the first half of the month. On January 16th and 17th, it was open back up. It was vacant. And for the month of, or the rest of the month, it was closed again. Now you'll notice here I have an edit. If I click on the edit, you can actually change these. So let's say that accidentally in room key for the month, you guys had this room come back off of out of order, but it really was out of order for the whole month. You can manually change that over to closed for those 2 days if they were actually closed. Right, so mistakes happen on the room key side on a day-to-day basis when we're operating the hotel. It just happens. So we have an opportunity here to fix it. You even have an opportunity to put in, say you want to put in a guest. You can put in a guest. You can put in a res ID, the name John Smith, and the revenue of 125, let's say. So for whatever reason, maybe someone forgot to check in a room. Maybe it's no-showed, the guy showed up late, whatever the reason may be, you're able to change these. The other thing is sometimes we'll see someone go in as a guest, but they're actually an owner. You can switch them over to an owner, right? So that's why I was saying for the statement production, it's really you can change things that appear. Okay, I'm going to go to, yes.
Is there a reason why you would want to do it here instead of the room key side and let room key drive the revenues over?
Because you can't change room key once it's happened. Right?
But I can always charges.
But if you make a correction today, it's going to be on February's statement.
Okay.
Right? You can't make changes in room key to past dates, right? You can only change the revenue of today. If you did an adjustment today, it's going to show up on February's revenue, not in January's revenue, right? So in OA, you can go back, you can change things that need to be changed. And actually that room that has 32 days, you're going to see a good example of change we may have to make. Okay, so if everything looks good on the unit, we go to the next unit. And here we can see Vincent was a guest, the rate that was in. We're just kind of seeing, does everything look good? Does everything look correct? All right, these were all guests that were staying in here. We can see that the room was closed a few days out of the month. It was vacant a lot of the month as well. Okay, we go to unit 103, no reservations. Okay, here we have the guest. Again, just looking, does everything look okay? And by all means, if you guys see something that doesn't look correct as I'm scanning these, you can stop me, but it looks like so far so good. So here's the example. Here we have January 3rd, Mitzi Wood. We have a negative 168 on that day, and we have the 2 days of 84. So this looks suspect to me. What happened with this guest? Now, if you weren't involved with Miss Wood and what happened with her reservation, you may have to go over to room key and figure out, well, what happened. So let's go over. I'm going to take the res ID 2146. I'm going to go back over to room key. We're going to search for res ID 2146. And here I see the guest. So they were in January 1 to 3rd. And already paid Blue Water invoice 1003-1004, so I'm not exactly sure what that means. So you may have to go into operations activity log and find out who did those reversals and see if you can get to the bottom of it. So before I run this, does anyone know what happened with that guest?
Yes, the guest showed up at the front desk, said, "I'm here to check in." We asked her credit card for payment, and the response was, remember, we're transitioning management companies now.
Yeah.
She said, "I already paid the prior management company for this stay."
Okay. So as far as to the owner of this room, should we be displaying the $84 or should we put this at 0? Should we not even show this guest on here? What's the call?
I think
I will. At some point, I would like you to opine, but so I just got a list from Blue Water, and they are saying, so if it's already paid the owner, I would say we probably should not show that on there.
Listen, either way, we have an explanation of what happened. And so the homeowner, at some point, it's their responsibility to make sure Blue Water pays them. It's not our responsibility. Our responsibility is to reflect the revenue that came in. So I'm okay with showing the revenue that came in, and we reverse it out at the fact that Blue Water should be paying them.
Okay.
We need to have some sort of documentation for that homeowner so they understand that that was revenue that was received by the previous management company. And again, it's their responsibility to work with that management company to get their cash if they didn't get it. Because obviously Crown didn't receive the money. So I'm fine the way it looks right now. I have no problem explaining that to a homeowner.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, next, Kaiser looks good, and that looks good. So then we go to the next one. Things look correct to me there. I assume this would be another situation, the same?
It is.
Yeah, okay. So this is time consuming. I'm not saying it's not, but it's good to go through. You want to make sure everything happened as it should. Okay, Connie Hughes, I assume is the same, the Blue Water thing?
Correct.
Now, Allison Todd, this looks a little bit different because it's not the full amount here. So again, I can go back over to room key and find out what happened. Or does anyone on the line happen to know what that adjustment was at the end? If not,
I do not.
okay, so let's jump over to room key. And I'll go to 2277. Written for guest issues with her. Okay, so it looks like someone did an adjustment because of issues with the room. So you can go, again, you can go to Operations Activity Log, and you can put in the res ID, and it'll show you who did that adjustment if you needed to speak with them. Okay, but in this case, if we took off that amount from that adjustment, what I would suggest doing, oops, there we go. If this was an adjustment to the rate that was done, what you could do is then edit and combine this into the two amounts here. So take 5387, divide it by 2, and take it off of those two. You know, whatever makes sense to you guys. But if you want to leave it like this, we can leave it like that, and I'll show you how it shows on the statement. There's two different ways that you do it on the statement, and depending on the setting you may choose, this may not make a difference. So let's keep on going through, and when we run the statement, I'll show you how it looks like the two ways, and then you can decide, do you want to leave it like this or combine the two? It's really if you want to show reservation details or not. Okay, again, I'm going to say that's probably a blue water one. Oops. Blue water, I'm going to assume. So this one looks maybe like Kristen was in for a few days and paid blue water, and then she decided to stay for a couple of more days and pay you.
A portion of it was blue water. It's
yeah.
entirely possible she ended her stay.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we see our first owner guest, and the rate was 0 that was in there. Another owner guest. Now this looks a little bit weird that you have an owner guest, yet a rate of 116. Do we typically charge for owner guest, or?
Yeah, that's where that cleaning fee piece comes in. So you'll notice that they stayed 2, 4, 5 nights, and then 2 days later they came with the credit card or some form of payment to pay for the cleaning fee.
Okay, so let's go back over to room key. That is 2285. 2285. Okay, so this is the cleaning fee. And remember I was talking yesterday, if we go into system configuration transaction codes, any of the transaction codes that you have over here are going to, and you'll notice that they're inactive now, so it looks like either yourselves or maybe Tasha went in there and fixed things up. Did Tasha reach out to you?
He did not. So I think it bothers me just a little bit that things are changing without us being aware of it. So if somebody would reach out to me, that would be awesome.
Yeah, I let Tasha know what had happened, so I asked her to reach out to you guys. So I'll reiterate to her today.
Okay, thank you.
So anything that would have posted under that transaction code because it's under room charge, that's going to flow over to HOA. But because you guys do not pass those fees on to the owner, we can simply delete that line. When you delete the line, it still shows that you guys had deleted it, but now the owner won't see it. If you want to restore it, you can click restore. Otherwise, we're going to delete it here.
And when you delete it here, if you take a look back at your total summary, that will reduce the total revenue?
Yeah, so see up top, if I do restore, shows 116, and then when I delete, brings it down to 0.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to assume that's probably the same situation. 2284.
Yeah.
2284. Yeah, okay. So we're going to delete that line. This looks like it's the blue water thing. Blue water thing, I assume. I'm doing a quick scan here. I would encourage you guys to look as well after this. I just want to, at least make sure it's relatively clean before we do this statement production. And even though we do these statements, it doesn't send out automatically to the owners. You still get a chance to look it over, make sure you're happy with it before you send it out. Blue water. So this one, I assume it's probably.
Yeah. She checked in. She stayed with us. We didn't have our credit card link in place until sometime mid-January when we hit her card. I think she contacted us and said, I already paid Blue Water. So then we had to contact Blue Water for information. That's
so
delay.
What you could do, just to keep it a little bit cleaner, is you could put in the line up here. -258. Save that and then delete that line. Not a big deal, but just, the other ones look that way, so it doesn't hurt to have it look the same way, right?
Agreed.
This one here, where Sherry Smith is a guest but has a 0 rate, this may lead me to believe that maybe they were an owner or an owner guest that stayed in the room, or was this a comp room?
The comp room.
Comp room? Okay. This is probably the cleaning fee, I would think. Do you know offhand, or should we go check in room key?
It is the cleaning fee. So originally charged for it, then he decided that he wanted it to be deducted from his revenues.
Okay, so he wants that on the statement. Okay, so what we can do is we'll delete those two lines, and then we'll take note that he wants the 87 cleaning done on his statement. So that'll be a manual posting that we can do for that $87. Which unit was that? 236. Do you know, was this a blue water thing offhand?
Oh no. Well, yes. This one's a mess. So.
Okay. So this one here, I mean, at the end of the day, if the revenue is correct, that's really what you care about. So we don't need to go through this one now. Maybe for homework, just take a look at this. Just is that revenue correct that you're doing? So.
Yeah. Okay. Can you go back to the Falco one more? Go back one more. Another one. All right, on the 31st, he should have had another charge for cleaning fees. So he stayed, again, his reservation ID is 2290. He checked in on the 29th. So the cleaning fee didn't come over because they zeroed everything out.
They zeroed it out before it got here.
So
right?
We would need
to... This probably occurred on different days. Yeah.
Correct.
So in this case, you want to charge 87 and 20, whatever it was?
58.
29, I think. Oh, 58. Okay. Oops. Sorry, this is not the very exciting part of training, but it's good to go through. Anyways, you get the idea of what you want to do, and does everything look okay? Like this one here again, I assume this is the blue water thing.
Is
I'm going to assume Melissa Bell here. Okay, so that is probably the blue water thing down here. Okay. And there we go. So we're done there. So again, I would encourage you to go back through that and make sure that that is indeed correct. So once I do that adjustment, I'm now going to go over to expenses and payments. So for the expenses, and what I did is I didn't click on the drop down, I clicked directly on that menu item. So again, know that there is a menu for it and a drop down for it. So when I go to the menu item, I'm going to go to new expense. And for expenses, you have a lot of options of how you want to do it. You can do a charge to multiple units at one time. You can do as well, if I go down to expense to property. You guys don't use expense factor or revenue factor, but let's say that there was we replaced part of the roof on the building and it cost $10,000. And then we were going to divide that amount equally amongst all the owners. you could post it that way. You can do the same amount to all units. So let's say that snow removal in the winter, not that you guys have that, but I'm in Canada, so that's the thing that comes to my head. If we did $50, same amount to all units you can do. Revenue as a factor, so that would be, let's say that you had a $10,000 for the roof and you want to divide it up based on who made the most revenue. You could do as well. And then a multi-unit expense would be doing a, say you did a replacement fee because you did carpet in like, 10 of the units. So it's just a way of doing a multiple unit expense instead of doing one at a time. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, we're going to do new expense. And we are going to do, now the transaction date, this really just, when did we want this fee to be posted? So let's say that you had a couch replaced in one of the rooms and you ordered it on January 3rd, you got it delivered on January 10th, and you had the invoice, and the invoice said January 3rd. Accounting didn't get the paperwork until January 15th. So your choice is that you could post the charge, the maintenance fee or replacement fee as of today's date, or you can backdate it to show, well, I want to display this, right, for January 3rd, that's when we did that's when we were invoiced for that couch, okay? In this case, I think we only have, right now we have the 2 postings, or I don't know if you want to do it as a lump sum, but for that unit 236, we want to post the cleaning fee. Did you want to do that as a lump sum, Quan, or divide it, since you stayed twice, do you want to do it as 2 separate postings?
I think I'd like to see it as 2 separate postings.
Okay, so do you know the date offhand, the first date?
Yeah, is this room 240?
I think it was 236 for Frank Falco. So if I look in room key, he stayed on the 15th, 16th,
January.
and 17th.
Okay.
So if he stayed the 15th, 16th, and 17th, checked out on the 18th, you could do the posting of the 18th or the 15th, whatever makes more sense.
I would do it at checkout.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to do this as an expense. The code is going to be clean fee. In the reference, you can put a reference, but I mean, in this case, it's a cleaning fee. And then the amount, would this be the 87 that you would post? Because that's the amount that was posted and reversed off.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay, and then I'm going to go down and I'm going to find unit 236. Okay, if I click save and close, that would just close it out. But in this case, I'm going to be doing a second one, so I'm going to click save and new.
Okay.
Okay, the second stay that he had
was a checkout on the 31st.
Falco, he checked out on the 31st. Exactly. So we'll do the posting for my calendar there. On January 31st, cleaning fee, and what was the amount of that one?
57.
57. We're going to go down to unit 236.
Sorry, 58.
58? Okay. Okay, and we're going to save and close. Okay, now if I go to expenses and payments here, click on the drop down, you'll see there's view transactions by batch. And if I click on that, you can see there's 2 cleaning fees that we posted individually. But if you, by batch would be, say you were using the multi-expense and you posted to like 10 units, that would be the batch. You would see all 10 units in that one batch. Okay, so then we look at other things that we need to post during the month. So if there was any replacements done over the month, do you guys have a record offhand if any replacements done? If not, you can certainly do it afterwards. But so to do a replacement, again, I would just go to new expense. I would choose the date. Choose your expense. I would choose replace. And here, this is where I would use that reference fee. So replaced sofa in living room. Put in your amount, choose the unit, and click Save. Okay, so once we get all the expenses in, we're then going to go over the statements. We haven't calculated the statements yet, so I'm going to click on the drop down. I'm going to go to, so here you'll see Calculate Statements, and this is Enable Owner Viewing. So until you're happy with the statements, you're not going to enable that owner viewing, right? So I'll click on Calculated Statements. Room Key is going to calculate management fees, recurring fees, and occupancy fees. You don't have any recurring fees or occupancy fees set up, so it's really only going to do that 29%. So I click on Calculate. It'll say running the statement calculation for January 2016. Are you sure you wish to proceed? Yes. Okay. And so what we see here is Unit 101, they had no revenue, so there's no expense of that management fee, but here we see for Unit 102, revenue, and we see the expense. I can click on View. Here we see the room revenue, year-to-date room revenue, and we see the management fee and the year-to-date management fee. If I click on Print Owner Statement, here we see the revenue, we see the reservation information, total, and the management fee. Now this reservation information here, we don't actually need to display this. So I'm going to show you the difference here. If I go to Configuration Settings, I'm going to click Edit, and if I scroll down to Show Reservation Info in Miscellaneous Owner and Statement Settings, so I'm going to say No. I'm going to click Save. I'm going to go back over to the statements. We're going to go to that same statement, click View. So here, it now just shows the room revenue. It doesn't give a breakdown of each reservation that was done.
Shane,
Yes.
the homeowners are used to seeing the reservations and how they're broken out, so we'll keep it as yes.
Okay. Show reservation info, yes. Okay, another thing I'm going to change. Show occupancy info. I'm going to say yes. And if I go back to the statements here, I'm going to go back to Unit 102. I'm going to print the owner statement. So this little summary down at the bottom just shows, okay, there was a guest in this room on these days, and if it was closed, this may not be the best unit. Let me find another one. Let's go to this. Yeah, so here they can see where there was a guest, if the room was closed, if there was an owner. Now, being that you guys display reservation info, maybe you don't need this summary, right? For the hotels that don't show the reservation information, I usually recommend this, but it may be overkill to do both.
Yeah, we don't need to show both, so we can eliminate the unit occupancy information.
Sounds good. So I'll say no. Now this show expense detail, that was, or sorry, show expense detail, yes. That's when I was doing the example of the sofa. So in that reference field, if I put sofa, that would show up on the statement. So I assume because you guys have the one code just called replacement, would you guys want to put there the reference of what you replaced right on the statement, or would that be a separate conversation?
No, we would want to put that on the statement.
Okay, perfect. So we'll leave that on. Okay, and if you recall that wording that you guys changed, so payment has been remitted, AC or check. Okay, and here you can go through, again, you can go through each one, making sure everything makes sense to you, the way that it's posted. Okay, now let's say that you notice that one room, something is wrong. So you look at this unit and say, no, something's wrong with this unit. So we're going to go back to the revenue. And I'm going to go back to unit 102. If I edit, if I make any changes to this revenue, so let's bring this down. Right now they have 451.65. I'm going to bring this down to, actually what I'll do, I'll delete this line. When I go to statements now, I'll actually want to recalculate the statements to see how it's still at 451.65. So I'm going to go back to statements, calculate statements. And now we can see the revenue is down to 367.65, and room key has adjusted the 29% on that. Okay, so you can calculate statements as many times as you want. If you go back and make a change over here, so now I'm going to go back to this one. We're going to restore that revenue. Brings me back up to 451.65. Go back over to statements. So here it's not matching. So I'm going to go to statements, calculate statements. And there we go. I mean, oftentimes, you know, if you're going through what I showed you here and going through each unit, you've probably figured out all the discrepancies that you want to when you went through this. So by the time you get to the calculation of statements, you're usually pretty confident of, you know, what's going on there. Okay, so once you calculate all the statements,